Welcome to the Realty Project podcast. My name is Jay McLaughlin. My co-host Paul Cates is on assignment. My guest this episode is a county judge. And if not familiar with the responsibilities of a county judge, as I was not, depending on the size of the county judge has a wide range of judicial and administrative duties. They are the presiding officer of the Commissioner's Court, represents the county in many administrative functions, serves as budget officer in counties with fewer than 225,000 residents. Most have broad judicial duties such as presiding over misdemeanor criminal and small civil cases, probate matters, and appeals from the Justice of the Peace Court. They also serve as head of emergency management. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the Judge of Waller County, the Honorable Judge Trey Duhon. Judge Duhon, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate the opportunity.
Really excited about the time we're going to spend, and I'm going to get right into it. There is a wildly successful entrepreneur, marketer, and influencer by the name of Billy Jean. And via email, he was promoting a free class that sought to prepare individuals for the coming of artificial intelligence in the workplace. He also expressed that during the class, provided would be information on careers that would be in demand during this time. His promotion, which I liked, was led with two sentences taken from an article found in Forbes magazine from, get the date, October 2020. The two sentences read like this. In its recent Future of Jobs report, the World Economic Forum estimated that AI, artificial intelligence, will replace some 85 million jobs by 2025. Now, I'm pretty sure some of those watching will remember this gentleman by the name of Paul Harvey. He would entice you with this story, and you'd be on the edge of your seat, and then he would go to a break and say, prepare yourself for the rest of the story. So we've got the rest of the story. That's not the final story. 85 million jobs gone. The same report, however, concluded that some 97 million new jobs would be created in the same time frame due to AI. The title of the article, U.S. lost over 60 million jobs. Now robots, tech, and artificial intelligence will take millions more. Currently, approximately 30% of all tasks are done by machines, and people do the rest. However, by the year 2025, less than 2 years away, it's believed that the balance will dramatically change to 50-50, a combination of humans and machines. Question. Interestingly enough, a resident of Waller County, when asked what they would ask you if given the opportunity, stated, what is Waller County doing to attract high-tech companies to the county to prevent long commutes to Houston, provide robust salaries, as well as the opportunity to receive health care?
Well, that's a great question. That's a lot of information there on the lead in. We are, and that's the funny thing. Waller County has always historically been a very rural agricultural community. For years, a lot of people knew Waller County. They would drive through Waller right here on Business 290, which used to be the 290.
Right.
And they knew Waller because they stopped at the Pecan Tree Restaurant, which was everybody knew the Pecan Tree Restaurant, which is no longer here. And so it's funny now to say, well, where's Waller County today? And looking at all these high tech jobs and what are we doing today? And believe it or not, I think we have an economic development program right now through the Waller County EDP. Which Vince Yoakum, I believe you've had on your show, has been phenomenal. And we are aggressively marketing Waller County. We've developed quite a niche in Waller County, especially for companies out of Europe. You've got Burkhardt Compressors right here, Swiss company. This is their North American headquarters right here in Waller. You go even towards the south end of the county, you've got Man Energy, which was formerly Man Diesel. Their founder invented the diesel engine.
Wow.
Rudolph Diesel, I believe. we've gotten them to come in to Waller County, and you start looking at the companies that we've got that have come into Waller County, Goya, Igloo, Medline, Amazon, Costco. We've got an incredible success story already building where we are going after those types of companies that not only provide good jobs, but good high-paying jobs, good management jobs. Because if you don't have that kind of economic development, your community will just die on the vine. Young people will have to go elsewhere for the good jobs.
Right.
So we've got to do that, but at the same time, we've been very methodical and deliberate in our approach. We did a comprehensive strategic plan for the county when I first became judge in 2015. It's a 3-year process where we're trying to go after those types of companies. High tech, clean manufacturing. We also want good corporate partners. So we want something that fits with what we want, which is they're always careful about natural resources. They have a good footprint. We've had a landfill fight here in Waller County, where a company wanted to build a landfill 1 mile north of our county seat on top of our water table,
Right.
and bring out Houston trash. And we're like, that's not going to work in Waller County. And we successfully defeated that project, by the way. First time in 55 plus years, TCEQ returned an application to an applicant, and that was when that book comes out, and I do think somebody is writing a book on it. It's really David versus Goliath. But so we are very cognizant about our natural resources, our agricultural heritage, and so we're trying to attract those companies, but also try to preserve that at the same time. So we don't want growth just for the sake of growth. We want quality growth. We want quality development. We want nice neighborhoods. We like, acreage developments, those kind of things. So you have this is a place where people can raise that family. Your kids can graduate. There are good jobs in the area. If they want to stay local, they can, and they can have those opportunities. We've had several economic development projects where the average starting salary is above $80,000. Now, so it's not just all warehouse jobs that a lot of people tend to think sometimes. So we will take those companies all day long. We actually, our EDP literally has an office in London that we use to market the county to those European companies, and it's very successful. We have some projects in the pipeline that if they end up happening are going to be huge, and it's cutting edge. I mean, Tesla just rented out 1 million square feet down just outside of Brookshire. I think they're going to be using it for battery storage for their production facility there in Austin. So the tech's here. I mean, and I'll say this too, and it is true. People worry AI, and I think people have always worried about that, right? Even when you had robots coming on the scene and automation, and auto workers, and now the robot does the stuff. But when one door closes, another door opens, and it just creates other opportunities that we can't even think about right now. What are those jobs that are going to require a human being on some level? I mean, creativity. I mean, I'm not saying that AI can't be creative, but I think you're not going to be able just to replace people at the end of the day.
I agree. And you pretty much answered my next question. High-profile business leaders and a small number of politicians are starting to speak out about the potential harmful and damaging effects of transitioning to technology and replacing workers. Computers, intelligent machines, and robots seem like the workforce of the future. And as more and more jobs are replaced by technology, people will have less work to do and ultimately will be sustained by payments from the government, predicts. Now, this all came from Elon Musk. You just mentioned him, the co-founder and CEO of Tesla. So let me give you a few more minutes to elaborate on that. It seems like it doesn't concern you, this concern of having these robots, this tech, this artificial intelligence.
I guess a classic example, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Not the first movie, which is a classic, which is my favorite. The second movie, Willy Wonka, Charlie's father worked in a toothpaste factory, and his job was screwing the caps on the toothpaste. Right? You remember that?
Right.
And then he lost his job when they brought in a robot, and the robot would screw the toothpaste on it. And then towards the end of the movie, when Charlie wins the prize and everything else, he also mentions the fact that not only that, but his father got a new job maintaining the robot arm that screws the toothpaste, the caps on the toothpaste. So again, that's I believe that the one thing we change is constant. Things are always going to change, and technology is advancing at levels that are unbelievable in our lifetime. To think that I have a device in my hand right now that has more computing power than all the computers that put the first space shuttle into space. That's amazing.
It is.
And it's life changing. But at the same time, it creates there's always going to be opportunities created somehow, somewhere, and we just probably don't even know what those things are going to be right now. But even they say, for example, your cell phone, when they came out with all this is supposed to make your life easier, right? And I don't know about you, but like my cell phone has not made my life easier. Now I'm more accessible, and the emails. I mean, I get 250 plus emails a day.
Wow.
And I'm constantly,
and I notice you're on Facebook too. You spend some time on Facebook.
Yeah, when I I came to Waller County. I am not a native Waller County person. I was not seventh generation, which a lot of people pointed out when I first ran for judge. But I got to Waller County in '05. In fact, believe it or not, my first when I actually opened up my own law practice, I was in that little corner right there of that shopping center across the street. That's where my practice first opened.
Wow.
And back then, and then kind of one thing led to another, and I was involved in the fight against, at that time, they were trying to build a super highway through Waller County called the Trans-Texas Corridor. Mm-hmm. I had just poured the foundation on my house when I found out I was in the middle of that pathway. So I got involved with a grassroots group out here, Waller County, Citizens for a Better Waller County. Fought that project for 3 or 4 years, almost practically put my law practice on hold. We were successful in that fight. Then finally started to get back to practicing law, thankfully. And then we had the Tri-County wildfires in 2011. And I was kind of slow getting onto Facebook. Everybody I knew was on Facebook, and I was just like, that's just ridiculous. I'm like, really, you have time for this? Who has time for this? And then I got on it, and then immediately I was like, oh, well, there's somebody I haven't seen since high school. This is cool. I mean, I just reconnected with someone I haven't seen in years. And but then I started to see the power of social media, and what really brought it to the forefront for me was during the Tri-County wildfires. You had all these people that were evacuated out of the Oak Hollow Country Lane area. My house was not far from the edge of the fire zone, and we were just we desperately needed information. I was begging for information, and I knew, based on my involvement in the community, I knew a lot of the elected officials, and people just couldn't get the information, like where's the fire line, what's going on right now, is my house even there? And I was getting a little frustrated, and I noticed on Facebook that Montgomery County had started a group where they were exchanging information about the status of where the fire was, because it was the Tri-County wildfire, so it was Waller County, Montgomery County, and Grimes County. And I saw this group growing, exponentially by the day, and I'm like, why don't we need a group like that we can exchange? And I approached the elected officials at that time, and I said, hey, y'all need this. You can get information out quickly, and you can make sure people know what's going on. And they're like, and of course back then a lot of the elected officials were, still had flip phones. They were technology. No, I'm serious. They were like deathly afraid of technology, and so I really got lip service, like, yeah, we're kind of busy right now. Right. So probably second or third day of the fire, I was so frustrated. I said, I'm going to start a Facebook page, and I started a page called Waller County Fire Info, and it took me 2 minutes to put a page together, and I put it out there, and within 24 hours, there were 25,000 people that were actively exchanging information, giving, helping each other. I then I found out quickly I had to start monitoring the page and making, I had to, luckily because of the people I knew, I was able to, people said, oh, the Exxon on 1488 exploded. So I'd call a guy that I knew that was on, out there in the field, and I said, is the Exxon still there? And they're like, it's still there. So I'm like, this is not correct. The Exxon is still there. That page grew into 3 or 4 or 5 other pages. We had volunteer and donations page. We had an animal page because some people had to leave their animals behind. We had a How's My Street page because people were like, does anybody know about, Parkview Court? And then other people would like, yeah, I talked to a guy. He was just there. Everything's good. And I had to recruit neighbors. We were at my kitchen table, all with our computers and laptops, monitoring. And I mean, this thing blew up like I've never seen. I mean, we ended up with 2-3 million page views within 48 hours.
Wow.
People, family members from overseas using that webpage to basically tell their elderly parents who had been evacuated, giving them updates through the page. What was really interesting is when the elected officials who initially blew me off, were calling me and asking me to put information out there. And let me tell you, you want to talk about an impact. We had people at one point, again, because they didn't know what was going on, they were running the blockades to try to get back into their homes. Well, it was an active fire line.
Right.
So we were having to divert resources to basically keep people from going into an area that was incredibly dangerous. So they said, please tell people, stop running these blockades because we're diverting resources, and right now we should be focused on fighting the fires. And I put that out there, and literally within an hour it stopped.
Wow.
And it was, and that's when I was like, okay, this social media thing can be very powerful, especially in a natural disaster or an emergency management kind of situation. And that's also actually how a lot of people got to know me. I'd already fought the Trans-Texas Corridor and then the Waller County Fire, and that's kind of what the series of things that led to the point where I ran for county judge.
So Facebook has been good to you.
Social media, it can be a double-edged sword. Because there's a lot of information that can be put out there that can be bad information. Right. And trust me, I've spent many a late night, 2 or 3 in the morning, out there trying to correct misinformation or trying to get the right information. My wife has finally had to enact a rule, that once her iPad closes, all devices have to go down. I get the glare if I'm still working, but. And so a lot of people say, oh, Mr. Social Media and stuff. But, it's one of the best ways to get information to people directly from the source.
It's a great tool. It's a great tool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, so we're not afraid to utilize it, but it is something that has to be managed at the same time.
This is the Realty Project Podcast. My name is Jay McLaughlin. And my co-host, Paul Cates, is on assignment. My guest is Waller County Judge, the Honorable Judge Trey Duhon. I Googled the following greatest concerns in Waller County. Found a website identified as, I think they pronounce it as niche. Niche ranks thousands of places to live based on key statistics from the U.S. Census and experts' insights. Full disclosure, last night was my first time viewing this site. Not certain of the accuracy, but however, I did read a couple of reviews from what I suspect are the words of residents of Waller County. The first, Waller County is quiet and the people are very kind. It's true. The local businesses are caring and helpful. The sense of community is strong. Having read the reviews, it became evident that they would serve as a great segue into a few questions I have for you right now.
Okay.
Waller County is quiet. The people are very kind. The local businesses are caring and helpful. The sense of community is strong. You mentioned Vince Yoakum, and he is the executive director of the Waller County Economic Development Partnership, and he confirmed that within by 2025, they expect to have 34 to 35,000 new homes here in Waller County. In the wake of such tremendous growth, how do you and your team, you know where I'm going,
Oh, I do.
maintain
Trust me.
the quiet county where the people are kind, business owners and staff are caring and they're helpful, and that sense of community is strong? How do you do that?
Oh wow, that's
a loaded question, I know.
That's the kind of thing that keeps you. That's what keeps you up at night. You know, when you realize, we've done. First off, there has to be a ton of planning, strategic planning. When I came to Waller County, there had really not been a whole lot of planning. There had been a lot of deferred maintenance over the years. Stuff just kind of kicked down the road. So I took the stance that we were going to be extremely aggressive, not only in just tackling problems head on, and literally just wrestling them to the ground, but also we got to start thinking about the future. We got to plan for that growth to the best of our ability. We did a comprehensive strategic plan for Waller County. It's on the EDP's website. We partnered with Prairie View A&M, College of Agriculture, and Texas A&M Extension Service. Really proud of that. That kind of lays out that vision. And we did a very honest assessment of what our weaknesses and strengths were, where we needed to work and get, for like example, medical facilities, and then also what our strong points were. The community is absolutely 100% the strongest thing we have in Waller County. And I've seen it time and time again, especially where it really comes out is in emergency management. We've had events like, for example, the Arctic storm, where we literally had a majority of the folks in this county without power for 5 days in subarctic temperatures. Many of them in homes that don't have adequate insulation. They had pipes breaking. They had ice sculptures coming down off of their ceiling fan, and we did not have a fatality. And how is that? It's because we're a community. And what would happen is the guy across the street who has a propane tank, or the guy across down the road who has a generator, they opened their doors and they said, "You guys, y'all need to come over here. We'll all get in the living room and we'll be all right." And that happened all over the county. And that's what we had to do. We had to come together as a community because CenterPoint wasn't going to, we knew nobody was coming to our rescue. We have to be resilient and self-sufficient. And I've seen the folks in Waller County do it time and time again. It's amazing how they rise to the occasion, and neighbors helping neighbors. And sometimes that's what I'll say. I'll say, "Hey, folks, you check on your neighbors, check, elderly people next door, make sure they're okay, all these kind of things." So that is our commodity, but we got to plan. And I'll be honest with you, we did a strategic plan, we did a mobility plan, we updated our thoroughfare plan. We even started to put together a parks plan, parks, green space, and trails plan. I used to give speeches where I said, people would go, "Well, does Waller County have any county parks?" I said, "No, we don't have any county park facilities." And they go, "Why?" And I go, "Because the whole county is a park. You walk out your back door and there it is." I mean, it was that kind of place. But that's going to change, so how do we plan for that? How do we make sure we preserve some of those green spaces? Because that has everything to do with quality of life and living a long life as well. You need to have access to those type of things. But all of that planning we've done was all, we all had these forecasts, and this was back just over the last 5 years, that Waller County would double in population by 2040. Okay. We're a county of 60,000 people. And you're right, we have probably 30 to 35,000 lots in the pipeline right now that could be on the ground in the next 2 years. Not to mention what else is in the early planning stages behind that. The residential development that's going on right now is of a level that nobody ever anticipated. But when you start running those numbers, three people in each house, I can promise you we will double in population before the end of this decade, easily, if not before. So all the planning we did where we thought we had, we have until 2040 to put all this. No, it's now. So that is one of the biggest challenges that I see now on a daily basis. It's why my calendar, it's back to back to back to back, is infrastructure, law enforcement, 2 years ago, knowing with the challenges we had, and again, we added 30 new employees to our sheriff's department. Now, this is during a time where you saw some places they were downsizing their police departments.
Right.
No, we are increasing our law enforcement because without safety and security in your home, there is no quality of life, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree.
So we were doubling down because we know with that growth comes, crime. It follows us out here. We're seeing it now. So we've got to have more officers on the street, more deputies on patrol. Our roads, infrastructure, even just county buildings. We cannot build what we need fast enough. We cannot add employees fast enough to meet the demand, the services that are required. Our elections office, everything. It's of a level. So when I came in, starting with very little and knowing we need to do a lot of planning, I always tell people, you're drinking from a fire hose, right? Or how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
But we've made some progress in that roads, and I felt good about it. But now we're right back to drinking from a fire hose and trying to keep up. And it is a daily challenge.
Also on niche concerning Waller County is the following comment. County living is at its best. Low to no crime, quiet. Decent jobs or long commute into Houston. Low entertainment value, long drive into nearest town. No deed restrictions, no flooding, and can hunt off your back porch or deck.
Right.
The two most asked questions for you by those I approached are, with all the growth, what is the strategy to keep crime from increasing? You answered that.
Right.
And what is being done to prevent possible flooding?
So, even the flooding, I quickly got a crash course in emergency. As you said, as a constitutional county judge, which is what I am, my position is provided for in the Texas Constitution. So I'm elected countywide. I preside over Commissioners Court with 4 precinct commissioners who are elected in each of their precincts. And we govern the county business on a day-to-day basis. But as being that constitutional county judge, that also makes me the director of emergency management for this county.
All
So
right.
when it comes to this county, the buck stops with me. When Texas Department of Emergency Management comes in, they're like, okay, Judge, what do you need? And I'm the one that calls the shots. I'm the quarterback. And what amazed me is within the first 3-4 years of being county judge, we had 5 flood events, 4 of which were FEMA level events. We had the Tax Day floods, the Memorial Day floods. We had Hurricane Harvey. We had a FEMA flood that didn't get a name, but it was still a FEMA flood, and we had to deal. We had people in the county that were impacted. And I'm sitting there going, why me? Well, we've become very good now. We've gotten to the point where Nim Kidd, the chief of TDEM, Texas Department of Emergency Management, now when we have an event, he calls and he goes, y'all good? I'm like, we're good. And so he can focus on other areas because that's how self-sufficient we are. We really know how to put a plan into action and to execute it. But I was like, wow, this is, I wasn't even able to really focus on the things I ran on and I was elected on because I was doing nothing but emergency management and recovery for the entire first term. And I ran into Judge Owen Rouston, who was county judge a couple terms before me. From between 2000 and 2010, he was in 2 terms. And I asked him, I said, Judge Rouston, how many FEMA disasters events did you have when you were a county judge? He's like, yeah, I didn't have one. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And what that's highlighted, and whether it's global warming or whatever you want to think about, but now, whereas our focus before was, okay, we had all this growth, we need to plan for that growth, but now it's like there's a whole nother component, flood drainage and flooding. The whole how do we manage the flooding and drainage? We have the northeast corner of the county where you have 4 or 5 creeks that all run into Spring Creek, which goes into northeast Harris County. And we've had rain events, again, of the likes we've never seen. 5,000 to 10,000 year rain events. but now it seems to be there. I don't understand why we're having multiple 5,000-year rain events. It should be, once we have one, we should be get a break for a while, right? But now we have to spend time, and so we're doing that in a number of ways. We've done flood drainage studies on many of the major watersheds. We've actually gone after grant money so that I think by this year we will basically have all of the watersheds. We will have conducted a study on all the watersheds, and then taking all of that data, we can then go in and start identifying specific projects that then we can then go and pursue. We've hired a grant manager. One of the best hires we made recently, we got Brooke Bequintis. She was formerly with the GLO. Okay. She's amazing. She has opened the doors, and so now once we identify the projects, whether it's a detention project or it's a drainage project or whatever the case may be, we'll be able to go after some grant funds and make that happen. So we're always keeping that in mind, trying to be extremely aggressive on doing what we can. Raising our standards. The county adopted Atlas 14. So now we're making sure that people that live, that if you're in the floodplain, that, you're having to elevate that structure. So we're trying to avoid people. We initiated with some of the money that came to us from Hurricane Harvey, a buyout program. So some structures just don't need to be where they are because they're just going to flood. So we've had some homeowners take advantage of that and, got them relocated and then, taking the structure down and just keeping it green space, which is what it needs to be.
I was just thinking, I know you were kidding, why you? I was thinking that this county was blessed to have you. Someone who knew the importance of being prepared. So when the unexpected happened, which as you mentioned, it happened several times, this county had someone that knew what to do, had a plan of action, and implemented it, and it benefited the county.
I will tell you, I am one that believes that everything happens for a reason. And my trade is, the law. I've been a lawyer. I've been a licensed attorney in Texas for, I don't know, I guess I'm going on 29 years, which is just scary to even say that number. And it's funny. I always thought if I ever, and I always thought public service might be something in my future, but I always really thought it would be on being a bench judge. Where, you have to run for office, but then after you get elected, they leave you alone for 4 years and you go be a judge, right? And when I actually opened my law practice here in Waller, there was another attorney here by the name of Buddy McKeag. His family's very well known in this area. They are, old Waller County family. Buddy's father was a county judge in Waller County, and Buddy had the same kind of law practice I did. And 6 months after I opened my law office here, Governor Perry tapped Buddy to become the new district judge of the 506, which was a new district court that got created in Waller County. So he closed his law practice. I inherited a lot of his clients and started to have to talk to him on a regular basis to make sure people got taken care of. And he became a mentor to me. He recently just retired. But when I was thinking about running for county, I was thinking about running for county court at law. And I went to Buddy to talk to him about it. And I said, this is what I'm thinking, and I want to know what you think about that. And he said, you would be a great judge, and there's no doubt. He said, but I really wish you would think about running for county judge. And I said, I don't know about that because, like I said, you're a bench judge, you run, but they leave you alone for 4 years. Right. I said, county judge, not so much. You get to deal with the politics day in and day out. And he said, I realize that, but I think Waller County is at a critical stage and it needs real leadership. And I believe that you're that person. And that just,
wow,
coming from him and his family history, that floored me. Major. And that was one of those moments where I stepped back and then I looked behind me and realized since the time I hit the ground here, fighting the Trans-Texas Corridor, and then the Tri-County wildfires, and then we fought the landfill, I realized I had been put on a path. And that path had led me, and that's when I realized it was one of those moments where I knew what the good Lord wanted me to do. And I was like, this is exactly what I am supposed to do. And and I left it. I turned it over. I said, God, if that's what you want me to do, then I'll trust in you. And I feel like in certain ways He parted the waters, and I've been blessed to be in this position. And I thank the Lord every day that I have the opportunity to represent the people. And I'm, whether people think I'm a carpetbagger or what, because I did get that when I came to Waller County, but also because I was in the trenches fighting those things. A lot of people learned who I really was.
Right.
And so I had established that. And so, I didn't run for commissioner. I just ran for county judge and was successful. And I haven't looked back, but I believe I was put here, and when it's time for me to step down, I'll be okay with that as well.
I when you were talking, a scripture that came to mind: "Many are called, but few are chosen." And let me tell you, I feel the emotion from the judge, and it's special. It's special. We're blessed to have you. You may have answered this question, but what would you say has been the most challenging experience for you as a judge of Waller County?
Wow. It's trying to maintain. It's probably trying to maintain a good balance. My wife Lisa, we've been married 8.5 years. We got 6 grandbabies.
Awesome.
And we really enjoy time, and it's prioritizing. I mean, this job definitely takes an enormous toll on your time, traveling, your schedule. Like I said, there's some days where I can't even look at my emails until it's 9, 10 o'clock at night. And then that's the first time I'm able to respond. And when you're getting 200 emails a day, now, again, luckily we've been able to add some staff that have helped take some of that load off of me. But I still have to make sure I find the time for my family and my grandbabies. So balancing everything, and trying to stay lean and mean, which is tough when you're running from one meeting to another and all those things. So that's probably been really the toughest challenge, is just trying to maintain a healthy balance between it all, but also making sure I give this job everything I can, because that's why I was put here. And it's a cliche, it's an honor and a privilege, but it truly is. I mean, I think I'm one of those that believes public service is still a calling. And I respect anybody that ever puts themselves out there. I wish more people would really think about it, because if we don't have good people that are willing to put themselves out there and do what they think is right for their community, then you're kind of just left with the folks that just decide to put their name down.
Correct.
And you're just going to get whatever that is. And I mean, but we've got to have good people doing that. It's still got to be that calling. And public service is something that, it's hard in today's world, because, you get lumped in and I love the local. I love being a local elected leader, because I feel like I can make decisions on a daily basis that actually has a real impact. I have to, I see my neighbors at the grocery store. I'm out and about. So, I believe when they say, that the government which is best is that which is closest to the people. I'm a firm believer in local control. I do believe the further removed you get, then the decisions that get made don't always reflect what people want that are there in their communities.
Right.
But I feel like I'm here. I'm part of the community, so I know what Waller County needs. I have a better sense, and and I love being in that position. And then you get to Washington, where good Lord, who knows? Nobody's safe while the legislature is in session. And that it is true sometimes, because they can pass laws sometimes. I don't think they actually realize the impacts those laws can have on us on the local level. Like even the state legislature, they can pass a law that has a good intention behind it, but it requires us to spend tax dollars to comply with that law. And every time we call them unfunded mandates, and they pass the law, but they don't give you the money to actually do the enforcement. We have to find that money. and it comes at a cost. I mean, when those unfunded mandates start adding up, and then, you know, as a local leader, your hands get tied behind your back. And then, you know, our sole source of revenue is property taxes. You know, and we're, at the same time, we are trying everything we can to keep our tax rate low. You know, we've lowered our tax rate 7 out of 8 years. This last year, we lowered our tax rate 5.5 cents. The largest tax rate decrease since the early 80s in 1 year. And, you know, but it's hard to do that when the folks in Austin keep passing laws that require us to spend money. And they don't give us the funding to do it with. So it's kind of like, I've got other things priorities here that need money as well. We're a growing county. We have a lot of growing pains. Our roads, you know, I'll give you a good example. For example, a lot of people, and trust me, the road that's in front of your house is the most important road in the county. I know that's the truth. And perception is everything. And so we get people and they're like, you know, they complain. Used to be they complained about the potholes. So we added staff, added dump trucks, so we would have a crew in each precinct to fill those potholes. Now people complain that because of all the potholes that have been filled in, the road is rough. and look, we want to rebuild the roads, we do, and we're trying, but Waller County is very interesting, and this is something a lot of people have no idea about Waller County. Waller County, back in the 50s, we had a lot of oil and gas revenue from the Katy gas fields. And the leadership at that time said, hey, let's pave all the roads in Waller County. So they did. We have 521 miles of paved road and only 100 miles of gravel road. Now, if you look at any other rural county in Texas, it's the complete opposite. Okay? Well, that's fine. And I'm sure, and back in the 50s and 60s, people were like, we got paved roads through Waller County. This is sweet. We can go, you know, smooth ride, no gravel, no dust. Well, then what happens in 50 years when all that 500 miles of road all starts to deteriorate at the same time? I mean, we have the capability, and every year we have expanded and spent more money on materials, manpower, and equipment in our road and bridge department. And our capabilities per year is probably rebuilding maybe 25, 26, 27 miles, and that's if we get good weather. So think 521 miles of road, and we can do 25 miles. It's a huge challenge. Mm-hmm. It's a huge challenge. So we're constantly having to try to keep up, and now we got the growth on top of that. So we're really having to think out of the box, and that requires us to sit down with these developers and say, okay, you're going to build this neighborhood, but hey, you know, here's our thoroughfare plan. So you're going to have there's going to be a 2-lane boulevard right here, and you know, we're going to need you guys to build it. And a lot of especially the developers, the ones that understand our vision, they work with us so that those roads will get built, so we have the connectivity. But man, it is absolutely a challenge.
Before you go, appreciate it as your most enjoyable experience as judge of Waller County.
Well, God, there's so many good stories. You know, I think it's really on a day-to-day basis. It's being out at the grocery store or being at an event, and some person, you know, that you may have never met comes up to you and says, "Hey, I follow you on Facebook. I really appreciate all your posts," because I try to keep everybody updated as much as I can, and they're like, "You're doing a great job. You know, thank you for what you're doing." And that you know, because you do get a lot of you hear the complaints. I mean, we do. You know, I'm not hard to reach. So we get the complaints, and there's some days where you're like, man, you know, it almost, you feel like, you know, why did I get up this morning? You know, but it only takes one of those moments where somebody kind of does something like that, or tells you, or how some decision you made impacted their life. That's when it really blows you away. And I'll give you this is a very poignant example that just blew me away in terms of social media. During the Tri-County wildfires, at one point they had evacuated that Oak Hollow area, and then they had gotten the fire contained on the north side of 1488. So they let people go back in their houses. Well, the wind shifted and the fire jumped back over 1488. So we were monitoring all of the scanner lines. And as soon as that happened, I'm online, I'm on Facebook saying, hey, folks, you got to get out. Get out now. If you're in Ocala, the fire has jumped the 1488. You got to get out. 2 days later, they had a big community meeting at the Waller High School. And I was blogging, trying to keep people updated because they couldn't even get everybody inside the auditorium. So I was doing updates, trying to be Mr. Technology as the meeting was going on. And after the meeting, there was a lady in a wheelchair on oxygen. She came up to me and she said, are you Trey Duhon? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, I just wanted to thank you for saving my life. And I said, I'm sorry. And she said, well, that day when, they let us back in, I live in Ocala, I have a trailer, but I'm handicapped. I can't drive myself, but I was in my home. I don't have internet or anything like that. But when the fire jumped back over, you posted, and a friend of mine saw your post, and she called me and said, hey, you need to get out. The fire has jumped the road. And she said, well, I can't drive. She said, well, I'm coming to get you. By the time her friend got there, got her loaded in the van, and they left the property, the fire was on the edge of her property. Now they saved her house, luckily. But as far as she was concerned, right. I had literally saved her life, and that just it literally blew my mind. I just was like, the fact that something I did had that kind of impact and potential, and that's when I realized social media can literally, especially in emergency, could save lives. So things like that happen in my position sometimes that just make you go, that's why I'm here.
I heard a man say, in order to lead, one must first be willing to serve. And I added something to that. In order to lead, one must first be willing and able to serve. And sir, you have served. And you have served well. And this was a special interview for me. And I know when I first met you and I heard you speak, I think it was over at an event in Prairie View, I can tell that this man cares about what he's doing. And I can sense it. So Judge Duhon, thank you for joining us.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Again, my guest has been Waller County Judge Trey Duhon, and I'm a little lost for words because he is a special man. If you've not had an opportunity to meet him, make sure you take the time to do so. Again, my name is Jay McLaughlin. This is the Realty Project Podcast. It's brought to you by Finishes Solutions. In the market for residential or commercial property, our brokerage team is here to help you. Should you seek to build a commercial or residential property, our team of designers, developers, civil engineers will prepare what's necessary for our construction team to build to suit. And if you have land, we can help you convert that land into passive income. Also, if you seek to invest in real estate, just simply call Finishes Solutions. Our number is 936-372-1670. That's 936-372-1670. Again, for my co-host, Paul Cates, who's on assignment, I'm Jay McLaughlin. This has been the Realty Project Podcast.